expand its testing capabilities.
Protesters feel that they need to come out in full force and support their community because they feel like they're not getting that support from the Portland police.
Another election day coming up against the backdrop of how to keep voters safe amid a pandemic.
The moment to truly understand who we are and who we say we are is right here at our feet.
What type of thumbnail?
You got to get a four-year degree, but a four-year degree is super expensive. We have created a system where the ticket to the middle class is a thing that middle-class families have to stress about and borrow for and patch together.
Why is this happening? With Chris Hayes. Subscribe now.
You're watching NBC News Now. We've got some breaking news.
We actually saw a large convoy of the National Guard come through here.
It's news made for your streaming world. Live weekdays starting at 6 a.m. Eastern.
This morning across the country, what the new normal for schools will look like.
Many teachers left making tough choices between the job they love and their family.
What am I going to decide? Take care of my children or have a job?
That's an impossible decision.
You're creating a little community school. This is a moment where we can just develop ourselves and develop our community.
Let's turn it over to students. How do they really feel about returning to school?
What I miss is my teachers.
They are resilient.
A surge in coronavirus infections. Developments on several fronts. The story. Tonight, the U.S. shattering the record for most COVID cases in a single day.
Every angle. What's your level of concern that the kids who have been told they're going to be home indefinitely won't be able to catch up?
On the ground.
Do you have faith that this is going to bring about change soon?
And in depth.
Here in Portland, more protests expected tonight.
Do you think that police in this country are under attack?
NBC Nightly News.
Record for most COVID cases in a single day.
The news business is dynamic and probably has never been more important.
No way.
With all that we're facing, I am so proud to bring the perspective of a Black woman, a daughter of immigrants, the wife and mother of a husband and kids who sadly are more vulnerable to police violence because of their color.
I swear,
a proud nerd and a representative of the emerging America to cable TV news. I hope the great Gwen Eiffel and my mom, Philomena Carol Lamina, will look down from heaven and be proud.
Wait, what?
Welcome back. As we head into tonight's debate, both candidates will be aiming their answers towards voters in battleground states, or they're supposed to be. But there are new signs of trouble for President Trump in the key places that he flipped in 2016, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. Two recent polls show Biden leading in Pennsylvania. The latest NBC News Marist poll of Wisconsin shows Biden now leading there by 10 points. Trump holds the same level of support in our Michigan numbers. He's sitting there at 44, although Biden's numbers are slightly lower than that. He still holds an 8-point lead. Our own Dasha Burns is talking to voters in Kent County, Michigan for our Canada County project about what they want to hear from the candidates tonight. So, Grand Rapids, what are you hearing, Dasha?
Well, Chuck, there are a couple things that are different on this first presidential debate night in Michigan than they have been in the past. The biggest change is that a lot of voters in this state actually have their ballots in hand right now. They became available to voters last week. And so for the last couple of days, we've spent time with Kent County Democrat organizers and Kent County Republican organizers and volunteers as they have been using this time as a really critical period of time to engage with voters and do that outreach just much earlier than they would normally do it because people are going to be voting this week, Chuck, and the approaches are pretty different. One difference is the Republicans. Trump won this county in 2016, albeit by a narrow margin.
No way,
but
yo.
Their chair, Joel Freeman, tells me they are trying to replicate that essentially in 2020. They're trying to hold on to that enthusiasm. In 2016, they had a lot of first-time voters come out for Trump, and he says they're coming back again. He actually told me that he doesn't see a huge difference between 2016 and 2020. Democrats, on the other hand, are trying to make the opposite thing happen this time around, and they're saying this election feels completely different from 2016. They're seeing a lot of brand new volunteers who have never been involved in politics before. In terms of what people actually want to hear, though, from these candidates, it's interesting, Chuck. It sounds like everyone wants to see their candidate be the best version of themselves, which means they want Trump to be Trump and Biden to be Biden. Take a listen to some of what I heard.
I feel like one of the biggest things that really gets his base and just like
you know, the common voter riled up is just how he is him, and he doesn't really have too much restraint. So just let Trump be Trump.
What I want to hear is Vice President Biden remain away from the personal attacks, which I think we know Trump is going to lob, remain committed to his focus on his vision, on his plan, on what sets him apart from another 4 years of President Trump.
Chuck, that second voter you just heard from, that's Mitch Monin, and he is actually a Republican. He's voted Republican in every election of his life, except in 2016 when he went third party. We actually met him at the Kent County Democrats office as he was picking up a Biden-Harris sign to put in his yard. And Chuck, I have to tell you, I have no stats, no great numbers on this, but every time I've been to the Kent County Democrats office, I have run into a Republican there. And Mitch is actually a veteran Army Ranger. He says he's frustrated with how Trump has handled military issues, and he's going to be interested to hear what they both have to say tonight. Chuck?
Well, Dasha, that's why we're in Kent County. It's why it's one of our counties. And if Biden has any plans on winning this election, he better hope more Republicans show up to the Democratic headquarters in Kent County. Anyway, Dasha Burns in Michigan for us. Dasha, thank you. Let me go south. Let's go to North Carolina. Election officials are now counting mail-in ballots, but data is showing that African-American voters are having their mail ballots rejected 4 times more frequently than white voters. Morgan Rafford is in North Carolina with more. And Morgan, this is the first 2 days of early voting. We saw it was immediately 4% rejection rate, 1% among white voters. And the fact that it's still holding is pretty disturbing.
That's right, Chuck. And this is kind of where they're beginning to count those mail-in ballots, because as you mentioned, today is the first day in North Carolina. North Carolina is one of the few states that begins to count those mail-in ballots before the election. This is the Mecklenburg County Board of Elections. So Mecklenburg County, for example, holds Charlotte here in North Carolina. And they're actually having a board meeting right now where they're receiving 35,000 ballots that they're going to go through tonight before they open their next batch next Tuesday. But this is the issue at hand, Chuck. You mentioned the fact that state statistics show that among those mail-in ballots, black voters are seeing their ballots rejected or returned for inconsistencies at 4 times the rate of white voters. And when we talk to the State Board of Elections, County Board of Elections, both in Monroe and Union County and here in Mecklenburg County, they all can't give an answer as to why that discrepancy exists, but they say that the inconsistencies they're seeing that's causing them to send those ballot faxes back are things like this. For example, this is a mail-in ballot. You might not have a voter signature, or you might not have the signature of a witness, which is required by law in North Carolina. We talked to one of those voters, a 70-year-old black man, who said that he didn't even know that his ballot had, in fact, been rejected until we called him. Take a listen to what he had to say. So you decided you were going to vote no matter what.
If I had to call, I would have gone.
The data showing that black voters are having their mail-in ballots rejected at 4 times the rate of white voters here in North Carolina. Why do you think that is?
Well, you know, it's funny how that works out. You know, you think after all this time it took us to get the vote,
shit, my bad.
you would think that we would still be able, but we still seem to be fighting to vote in 2020.
When we talk to nonpartisan election experts, they say the best explanation they can come up with right now for this discrepancy is perhaps the fact that a lot of African-American voters in North Carolina are typically used to voting early and in person. So many of them are voting for the first time via mail-in ballot, and they think that could be the mistake. But the reality of it is, State Board of Election officials, they are upset that there are these calls that this racial discrepancy exists. But the reality of it is those numbers do exist, and that impact is real for the people that we have spoken to. Chuck?
Well, it's important that in some ways the fact that we're finding it before Election Day. North Carolina does give folks a chance to fix their ballot. Isn't that correct, Morgan?
That is correct. That's correct. So it's called a voter curing process. And North Carolina is one of the states that allows people to correct their ballots. But of course, they have to be notified by their county board that there was in fact a mistake, and they have to be able to correct it before the election, Chuck.
And it turns out sometimes we have to do the notifying and it probably wasn't intended for us to be the notifiers. Anyway, Morgan Radford on the ground for us in North Carolina. Thank you, Morgan. And I'm sure that voter thanks you now, too. Our panel is back right after the break with what they'll be looking for when President Trump and Joe Biden face off.
Yeah, I'm playing Snake IO.
This debate moment from 2004
I need
when John
hits
Kerry
with the
took George
gameplay.
W. Bush to task over his response to the war on terror.
In answer to your question about Iraq and sending people into Iraq, he just said the enemy attacked us.
Fuck.
Saddam Hussein didn't attack us.
You almost got me there.
Osama bin Laden attacked us.
I'll play Snake
Al
IO.
Qaeda attacked us.
What the fuck is he on? Al Qaeda. I don't know what the guy's on. I'm trying to play Snake IO. Stupid bitch. I see to get 100 now. So play
This is a situation where the state continues to struggle to expand its testing capabilities.
Protesters feel that they need to come out in full force and support their community because they feel like they're not getting that support from the Portland police.
Another election day coming up against the backdrop of how to keep voters safe amid a pandemic.
The moment to truly understand who we are and who we say we are is right here at our feet.
You gotta get a 4-year degree.
Yo,
degree is super
there's
expensive.
no way.
We have created a system where the ticket to the middle class is a thing that middle class families
That one didn't
stress
count.
about and borrow for and patch together.
Why is this happening?
Yo, why can't I eat this shit?
Subscribe now.
You're watching NBC News Now. Got some breaking news.
We actually saw a large convoy of the National Guard come through here.
It's news made for your streaming world.
Ooh,
Live weekdays starting at 6 a.m. Eastern.
oh my god, yo.
This morning
my
across
sis
the country,
left.
what the new normal for schools will look
No
like.
way.
Many teachers left making tough choices between the job they love and their family.
What am I going to decide? Take care of my children or have a job?
That's an impossible decision.
You're creating a little
Fuck.
community school. This is
No
a
way,
moment we can
yo.
just develop ourselves and develop our community.
Let's turn it over to students. How do they really feel about returning
How?
to school?
How do I
What
keep
I
on
miss
losing?
is my teachers.
They are resilient.
A surge in coronavirus infections, developments on several fronts. The story. Tonight, the U.S. shattering the record for most
Oh my
COVID
god,
cases in a
yo.
single day.
From every angle.
No
What's your
way.
level of concern that the kids who have been told they're going to be home
Why am I so
indefinitely
shit?
won't be able to catch it?
Like I have no reaction
Do
to
you
that.
have faith that this is going to bring about change soon?
In Portland, more protests expected tonight.
I think that police in this country are under attack.
Ooh, I'm fast now, yo.
The news cycle is dynamic and probably has
fucking
never
God.
been more important.
Oh
With
shit.
all that we're facing, I am so proud to bring the perspective of a black woman, a daughter of immigrants,
What the fuck is
the
talking,
wife and
yo?
mother
Hold
of a
up.
husband and kids who sadly are more
Oh,
vulnerable
wait.
to police
Never mind.
violence because of their color, a proud nerd, and a representative of the emerging America to cable TV news. I hope the great Gwen Ifill
Damn,
and my
she
mom,
bad.
Philomena Carolina, will look down from heaven and be proud.
Wait, she's dead? Oh fuck.
You know what? He's been doing it for 47 years. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, so he should be able to beat me, I would think. He's much more experienced. They'll give him a big shot or something, and he'll go out there. He'll have a lot of energy. He'll have energy. He'll be like Superman for about 15 minutes. I can't tell you what I'm going to do. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to go to the debate. Steve's just asking, will I go on the attack? I have no idea.
I think this whole thing, though, is debate prep. You know, what I do is debate prep every day. I'm taking questions from you people all the time.
Welcome back to NBC's special coverage of the 2020 presidential debates as we are now just a few minutes away from the start of the first of 3 scheduled showdowns. That was the sound of how President Trump has been gearing up for tonight. Here is Joe Biden.
I can hardly wait to deal with what he refers himself as a stable genius. I think everybody knows this man has a somewhat pathological tendency not to tell the truth. I've begun to prepare by going over what the president has said and multiple lies he's
I can't even make a sentence, yo.
The comments are just foolish. Get ready, Mr. President. Here I come. And I'm used to dealing with bullies. So the point is that rather than say how I'm going to do, again, watch me.
Casey Hunt, Joshua Johnson, and Michael Beschloss are back to wrap things up. Michael, I'll start with you. I think we
After 15
shorted.
months, U.S. Attorney John Durham, who was assigned by William Barr to investigate...
We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by you know the thing. I'm among really qualified people. I'm the best qualified person for this job. I'm beginning to see why your wife left.
I would vote for him. No way.
Why? You're getting nervous, man. COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives.
Yo.
When you think about it. You know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
Damn.
I just spoke at
That's
Dartmouth
some good confidence right there, yo.
at the medical school, or not, I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at the, I want to be clear, I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it was a medical school or where the hell I spoke, but it was on the campus. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly, we're in a situation, the president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot. Another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea. He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault. Guatemala, El Salvador, and to go in and say in Honduras and say, look, I took on Putin in terms of in terms of what was going on in Ukraine.
Yo, oh my God.
By strengthening, by investing $100 billion in education, in global warming efforts. It's a whole range of things. We can't afford it by just beginning to treat reward work as much as wealth. It get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun, and the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun.
What the hell?
Have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun. Don't jump! Don't jump! Don't jump! They look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. To say that LGBTQ people have no civil rights. No man has a right to raise a hand to a woman in anger. We have to just change the culture, period, and keep punching at it and punching at it and punching at it. It will be a big, no, I really mean it. And immediately change the law in the state of Delaware.
It's gotta be time, yo.
Transgender people. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Man, you're hard to keep up with.
You did great, I think. But after a good workout, got to drink up.
All right.
Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble with Jill and Michelle.
Just let Michelle know I did drink this, all right?
Same time next week?
Same time next week. All right. You got a real dilemma, Mr. President.
Why does it seem normal?
I can't go every day, can I?
Which you like better, these or these?
Joe, they're the same.
They capture different moods. I didn't get a chance to flat shift in the second. I was afraid I'd go through those guys. I said, no. I said, if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him. Corruption.
What the hell?
Trump was out there tweeting again this morning. I called him President Tweety. Well, Trump is pursuing a damaging and erratic trade war without any strategy, by the way. This guy is moving to foment hate. But President Trump and the demagogues around the world, but if Donald Trump is reelected, he doesn't want to shed light. He wants to generate heat, and he's stoking violence in our cities.
Maybe. Who knows? Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Back to this.
In the last night. That might change the calculus for who we consider the winner of the debate.
Stop speaking.
But with Donald Trump in the White House, I think the calculus for who wins and loses these days is kind of changing every day.
It does seem to, and I do think it's a good point. I mean, certainly that empathy is what Joe Biden has been selling to the American people. Michael Beschloss, we're running short on time here. I want to give you the last word in terms of the sweep and history of this. You mentioned we are facing an unprecedented crisis. What's on the line tonight for our country?
I can't hear you, yo.
Not come up with a national plan to deal with it. People are suffering in this economy in a way that is different from any time ever before. And the other thing, if I might say, Casey, I don't know whose idea it was to put the words race and violence in the cities in the same sentence as an issue to be discussed tonight, but I think that never should have been allowed because those are two subjects that should not be linked, and it's almost...
Dana, closing thoughts as we prepare for this big moment?
That this is really...
If my man was wearing this, I would be all over him.
That smells really good.
For the soul of this nation.
With so much on the line, the wait is over.
Ooh, I'm nervous.
At no time
Ooh, yo.
Have voters faced a clearer choice?
Let's go. I'm ready.
Parties? Joe Biden.
Who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and most importantly, who we want to be.
I'm ready,
It's
yo.
all on the ballot.
Face to face, the main event starts right now.
Let's go.
First presidential debate, live from Case Western Reserve University.
Let's say he hits him with the 1-2 McGregor. You know he's done.
City. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
Good evening. Welcome back to our special coverage of this first presidential debate. Just moments away now. Donald Trump and Joe Biden will take the stage for 90 minutes.
No way.
6 topics on the table. The big question, will the candidates do anything tonight to change the course of this race? President Trump is behind right now, has been for months.
I'm trying to eat cereal.
Silver at 538 calculates that
shit.
Joe Biden is coming into this debate season with a 78% chance of winning the White House. But there are 3 debates, 5 weeks to go, and President Trump has a history of shaking things up. Our chief White House correspondent John Karl is on the scene in Cleveland.
George, Donald Trump goes into this debate with his back against the wall. By every publicly available measure, he is losing this race, trailing in the national polls, no consistent lead in any of the top dozen most competitive battleground states. He needs to change the dynamic of this race, and tonight is the best chance for him to do it. He's been here before. 4 years ago, his campaign was collapsing, and he turned it around in part with a debate and going relentlessly and ruthlessly on the attack. I expect that is what he will try to do tonight.
Okay, John Karl. Mary Bruce also in Cleveland covering the Biden campaign. Joe Biden has been here before as well, not at the top of the ticket, but he has had 2 vice presidential debates during the general election season.
George, this is his 27th debate for the White House, but Joe Biden has never faced an
Can this shit start already? Holy
Trump. He
fuck.
says all he has to do to win here tonight is tell the truth, but it is not going to be that simple. Joe Biden knows that Donald Trump is going to make this personal. He is going to go on the attack. Joe Biden's goal and his challenge here tonight is to try and rise above that, to not get dragged down into some brawl with the president. Biden will fight back if the president misconstrues his record, if he goes after his family, but don't expect Joe Biden to spend a lot of time here fact-checking the president. Instead, he wants to speak directly to the American people. He wants tonight to be about the issues. He's going to hit the president on taxes, on his business record, and especially in the midst of this pandemic, on health care, George.
And we saw Joe Biden release his tax returns today, Mary.
No way.
He did. Joe Biden trying to get ahead, trying to draw a clear contrast, trying to set the tone for the debate to come. He did release his tax returns today for last year, drawing a sharp contrast with the president and that blockbuster New York Times reporting. Joe Biden, we now know, last year paid about $300,000 in federal income taxes. We still don't know what the president paid because he has not released his tax returns yet. It is likely to be the first question here, George.
The moderator, Chris Wallace, is on the stage right now. He's outlined 6 topics for the debate, starting out with from the Trump and Biden records: the economy, COVID, Supreme Court, race and violence, election integrity. Let's go to Chris Wallace.
Good evening from the Health Education campus of Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first of the 2020 presidential debates between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
Get it, yo.
The Commission has designed the format, 6 roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first question, then open discussion for the rest of each segment. Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the 2 candidates. This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all 4 debates.
Let's just get into it. Like,
both campaigns
why is he
have
speaking
agreed
for
that
so long?
candidates will not shake hands
Shut the fuck
at the
up,
beginning
yo.
of tonight's
Holy
debate.
shit.
The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no boos or other interruptions, so we, and more importantly you, can focus on what the candidates have to say. No noise except right now as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
Let's go. Finally, yo.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right.
Why the fuck is he coughing, yo?
And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster. There's no way they would give it up. They had Merrick Garland, but the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States.
Holy shit.
They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court, and the justice, and I have nothing. I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person, but she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man did.
Holy shit.
And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
All right. There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
election. During that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very happy with.
That's simply not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialist. You're going to socialist medicine.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said, and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
your party doesn't say it. Your party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
Socialist
right
healthcare.
Now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the Democratic Party is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act?
What the fuck is this guy on?
8,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me about this.
I'm happy to talk about this.
And if you were here, it wouldn't be 200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You didn't want me to ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban...
All right, gentlemen,
which was heavily infected. You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr. President.
You're talking about 2 million people.
Mr. President, as a moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe
v. Wade. I thought this shit was open discussion, yo.
In the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's
begun.
on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
It's on the ballot in the court.
I don't think so.
In the court. Well,
there's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
and
just
you don't
be quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know
don't
her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
Obamacare.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir,
Chris, that was the worst part of Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular
Mr.
aspect of
Mr.
Obamacare.
President,
I got rid of it.
I'd like
and
you
we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer your question. You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Fine. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just say that there's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting drug prices. I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices.
Oh, yeah,
we're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
Let me ask you about,
this is big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
Well, if I can ask you the question, it will
end. Not what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would, Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the
Dumbass. He's really messing up.
The American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
are you saying
I'm not going to listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to do is
Tuesday. You got very lucky.
Here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Joe, you're the liar.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make sure.
Mr. President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be surprised.
You picked
You'd be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with Bernie Sanders to the manifesto.
His manifesto, number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
absolutely agreed.
Folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing?
They call it socialized medicine.
Mr. President. I'll tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give them better health care at a much lower price because
by the way, he doesn't know how. He doesn't know how to do that.
Fixed it.
He has never offered a plan.
Fixed it to an extent.
He has never done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize if you're both speaking at the same time,
and it's too expensive.
Let the president go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to
Hell
make
yeah.
very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is, and that destroyed. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well. And I just had a meeting with them. They said, the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high, and it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand it, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time. Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no plan for health care.
Of course we do.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got elected. He has none, like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right, I have one final question for you,
sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you going to pack the
court? Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question.
Why would you answer that question?
The question is,
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Who's on your list?
Right. Gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court. Not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure
47 years, you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So let's try to be serious about it. We have had more than 7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you.
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
Wait a minute. It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
there was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer it.
And there was no we didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people. You would have been
And by the way,
his
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer?
Okay, by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
The head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui?
I disagree with him. Yeah, no, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he said it's a possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be after that.
When it's generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be delivering.
This is the same man who told you by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically, you know that. That was said sarcastically.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine sooner.
I want to pick up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
Well, no, you can't trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust.
She said the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do. But there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there, like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not, they're the people, and by the way.
I spoke to the scientists that are in charge.
By the way.
They will have the vaccine very soon.
Let him finish.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
You see,
and
we're going to get to the economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay. When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide them plastic.
Tell that to Nancy Pelosi.
Well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
By the way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with him in the Senate. And he sits in his golf course. And, well, I mean, literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country. And I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had to because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd.
I want to move on to another
because
subject.
it's a political But those states are not doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer. And in fact, recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks
efficacy
are okay.
of
You have to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to. But I wear masks when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, if everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
Well, look
serious
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the opposite.
He did not say the opposite.
We got a little bit more than a minute left in this segment.
Masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
nobody will show up.
People with
What's true? Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
but are you not worried about
great job as a president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about
we
the
have
disease
a lot of people.
Sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay. By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing in one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000 people at these rallies.
Just quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks, basically encouraged them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening, and we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just the wrong state. I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. Well, we are going to get to the...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And
All right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out? When he took
Gentlemen,
a phony
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built
Sir,
a great company.
I'm asking you a specific question, which
But
is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it. And you'll get to see
When?
it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes, on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were
president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that that kind of an increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic